All right, UFC Vegas 75 recap reaction show, the AllStar MMA Live. Make sure you guys go into the descriptions and download the AllStar app. J-Spec got a major league going on right now. You know what I mean? Big prizes. Uh, Update us, J-Spec. What's going on with the league on the app?
Right now, as anybody who's keeping up with the All-Star app and keeping up with our show, it's no surprise Lord Harris is in the lead, but there's a couple guys right on his tail, only a few points behind. So in the All-Star app, you click picks, then join contests, and then easy, J-Specs Prize League. Champion of the month wins autograph memorabilia, but within that, there's a game inside of a game. Join us for UFC pay-per-view events with myself and Sicko, and the best picker in the space will win autograph memorabilia, just like our good bud Preston Kesselring, frequent member to the show and everywhere else we go. He won a wonderful 8x10 autograph photo of the BJ pen, and that's just a start. We're just getting started, man. So got lots of prizes left, lots of cool stuff. I'm not going to spoil because I want people to jump in and play, and then I usually try to give the winner a choice of a few different things. So that's why I keep the prizes quiet, because I want, you gotta leave a little bit of mystery for the people. So that's it, and that's what we're doing. Time's going by. We're already more than halfway through this month, so expect the same thing again in July and moving forward. So that's it, and thank you for mentioning it, John.
Yeah, go join them on the spaces during the UFC shows, and follow them at Sicko Sports and at JSpec the host on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure on Instagram as well. Let's jump right into this card, man. The main event, a middleweight contender bout. I don't know if there was any kind of title implications on this fight, but it was definitely a contender bout between Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori. Is that what you expected, Sicko Sports, from Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori? We've seen Marvin Vettori, take on the best and only lose to the best, right? Pretty much knocking off all the other contenders. His last fight was iffy, and this one was not, man. Jared Cannonier went in there and did his thing. Just give us your thoughts on the performance.
No, did not expect that at all from Cannonier. From Vettori, he's always going to be tough. Head is made out of concrete or vibranium or something. I don't know what his head is made out of. I don't know how he stood, how he didn't hit the floor. The shots he was taking were nasty. But from Cannonier, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Cannonier to look that aggressive, stayed on the front foot, kept pressuring him throughout the entire fight, and just looked clean. Like he couldn't miss. I remember that stat line, and I know Vettori, much easier to hit than Israel Adesanya. You guys remember that stat line from Cannonier where he just couldn't land a punch. He was like in the 20% against Izzy. Well, Saturday night, he looked like he couldn't miss a punch. Everything he was throwing was landing right on the head of Vettori. It was, man, Cannonier's had some great performances. This might have been his most dominant performance I've seen from him, at least in a while. He looked incredible.
Marvin Vettori, do you feel like he's fading now? Do you feel like he's hit his plateau, J-Spec? Because his last performance, arguably, a lot of people said that he lost that fight. The judges gave it to him. And Vettori, he's good, and he's good everywhere, but he's just not excellent in any aspect, right? It may be toughness, but you really don't want to gauge somebody off their toughness, right? It's not something that is I don't feel like it's something that we should be talking about, because that means that they take a beating really well. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that you would say for a champion. Like, the champion takes a beating really well, but he wins fights. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't last very long. Jason, what do you think of Marvin Vettori? Do you feel like he has plateaued?
John, you hit so much good points there. One, me and Sicko make this joke almost week after week. Toughness is the worst compliment in MMA. So you're absolutely right. Has Marvin Vettori plateaued? Honestly, I think he's been on this plateau for a while, but this fucking plateau is really high. And there's only a few men who find a way above it. It's not like he's suddenly not different. He's exactly who he's been for quite a while. So I agree. But once again, that plateau is super, super high. And he just met a man in that night, Like we talk about these two combatants, be it men or women, it's a 50-50 proposition no matter what the odds say. And Cannonier was just on fire. I mean, we see it in other sports sometimes where the better team wins over a course of a series. This is fighting. There is no series. And Cannonier just did amazing, arguably performance of his career. He shut all the critics down, even us in the spaces before we go around and make picks. People were saying, Cannonier has a chance, but it has to be in the first 2 rounds. Has to be in the first 2 rounds. Wrong. He caught some bombs in the first round. He looked a little shaky. Marvin had his moments in that first round, but boy, I think it's not so much about Vettori and anything negative in his direction. I think it's just like as many thumbs ups as you can find on planet Earth, and they all deserve to go to Cannonier. I mean, what a job. Not just his accuracy, his cardio. He even mixed it up towards the end too. So like he was just on fire. And when you're in the zone, you're in the zone, and pretty much nobody can stop you. So yeah, that's it, man. That's my thoughts from that fight.
Cannonier was fearless in his approach, right? Like he would walk down Vettori, right? Someone that's known for their toughness and their striking, right? They're not going to really grapple too much. I think one of the scorecards was like 50-45 or something like that, winning all 5 rounds. The first round, like you said, I didn't catch the first round. I started watching that fight from the second round. I don't know why I didn't catch the first round, but the second round, it was just like that fight from that point on was just all Cannonier, right? Just marching forward, landing bombs, and it just the power difference, Sicko, it was just there, right? Like Marvin was landing, it just wasn't having the effect that Cannonier was having with his punches, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you said it yourself, just marching forward, that pressure. I think he flipped the script on what we thought that fight was going to be. It's usually Vettori that's pressuring. Vittori's the one with the great gas tank. Vittori's the one that we see him. He'll look the same in round 5 that he did in round 1. And I mean, even like Rob was saying in the spaces, when Cannonier had those first 3 good rounds, we were like, all right, he couldn't get Marvin out of there. This is where Marvin's going to flip the script. He's going to start pressuring. We'll probably see him win the last 2 rounds. And nope, Cannonier looked like the fresher fighter. He needs to get drug tested. I don't know what was going on with him. The best I've ever seen him, especially cardio-wise. He looked incredible, man. And yeah, like you were saying, sitting down on punches. I think a lot of times Cannonier's trying to find his range. He's just trying to touch his opponent. And I think he did that early enough where he started sitting down on some shots. I mean, Vettori ate some nasty ones, man.
Yeah, this fight is weird. Go ahead, J-Spec. Go ahead.
I just want to just throw in some stats that you can get on the AllStar Sports app, and you can get them live while the fights are happening. Just for putting a little bit of extra glory on Cannonier, because I think he deserves it. Total strikes thrown, 448. 448, dude. Like, that's a lot of punches thrown, especially for these size of dudes. And 252 of them landed. That is astronomically awesome. That's all. I just wanted to share that part.
This fight is kind of odd, and like we've seen the matchmaking for the middleweight division recently, and it has been just very odd. But this fight, it doesn't. I don't know, man. It doesn't like leapfrog Cannonier into like an argument for the title, because it seems like the line, even though Adesanya has beaten almost everybody, in the top 10, the line is long, right? You still have what is it?
Dricus.
You got the Dricus, right? And Robert Whittaker fight coming up, which that puts them ahead of what's his name, Cannonier, right? Because Cannonier's performance against Izzy was just like one of the worst, right? It's up there with like Yoel Romero, right? It was not very good, and it's not a strong argument, right? If that's another thing is like he went out there and 25 minutes of a beatdown, but it was just he should have finished Marvin. I think that's like you need to have those like highlight reels. You need to have something that you could promote yourself with. And a win is a win, definitely, and a dominant performance is great. But man, when you lose to a champion like that, you need something more. And he's gonna probably spend time beating some of these up and comers. That's what he has to do now. And what might most likely will happen is that he will lose because there's so many good fighters, right? That we don't know about yet. That's coming up in the middleweight division. So if you look at the rankings, Cannonier sitting at number 4. Vettori was number 3, right? So they probably switch positions. That still leaves him behind like a couple other fighters. But I think he'll have to fight like a Sean. He's gonna have to fight down the rankings. That's the problem, right? Because Pereira is gone. He's at 205. So has he fought Sean Strickland?
Yeah, that was his last.
Yes.
That was his last fight. That he got the.
That's right.
He got the win.
That's right. Man, he's the if you look at the list, he'll probably have to end up fighting the loser of Dricus and Whitaker, right? Because he hasn't fought Dricus. Dricus is new blood in the division, but he's fought Whitaker, right? Whitaker messed him up, right? So I can see that fight happening again if Whitaker loses to Dricus, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, one thing I can see happening. I mean, the one thing that can't happen is if Dricus wins. That's a title fight, right? That's kind of what the UFC wants. That's what Izzy seems to want, is for Dricus to win, and then we have the title fight there. So yeah, if that happens, then it's kind of just left with Cannonier having to rematch somebody. But I do think there's a possibility that if Whitaker wins, and he wins in a way that people might find a little bit boring, he can take Dricus down. He's holding him down. Dricus just can't really get up. Maybe Cannonier does leapfrog it. Maybe Izzy sits there and looks and goes, do I want to fight Whitaker for the 3rd time? Or do I want to give Cannonier a second? And it's Izzy's fault, right? It's Izzy's fault that we're sitting here trying to find him an opponent because he's just beating everybody. So it's his fault that we're stagnant in the division, where there could be a scenario. And one question that came up to Cannonier after the fight was Khamzat Chimaev. And I know why he wanted to turn it down. Khamzat's not ranked in that weight class. I get it. But he said something that was interesting. He said, if the UFC tells me that a win over him gets me a title shot, then I do it. I think it does. I think the UFC would love to put him and Khamzat and say, yeah, sure, the winner does get a title shot. Because one, they want Khamzat to get in there. They want a quicker way for him to. They don't want Khamzat to win 3-4 fights in the weight division. They just want him to win 1. And if Cannonier moves up to 2, great. Now we get what we want. Sure, if you could beat Khamzat, then you deserve it. If Khamzat beats you, we don't need another fight. He's the next one for Izzy. So I can see that happening.
They could offer him Khamzat in Abu Dhabi, which is enough time, for him to get in a camp and get ready for that fight. That's not a bad idea. J-Spec, what do you think is next for Cannonier and Vettori?
Man, I have no idea what's next for Vettori. Vettori, in my opinion, needs to almost take this fight like a KO loss. I think he should relax, let that brain heal, let the fluids build up, and what I don't know the scientific term, but the brain fluid, let that shit rebuild up, because he got it. He got it every which way. Something we talked about in a previous show a while ago. We're talking about how Adesanya, almost has iced out the entire division, but I slightly disagree with my buddy Sicko here. He hasn't done it alone. Whitaker and Marvin were like accomplices in this. They kept smacking everybody down. So now Vettori, in a very respectful way, as his blocking everybody, has now let someone through. And Cannonier, yes, his performance against Adesanya not great, but he is 39 and he's pretty much peaking right now. He's not. I agree with you, John. We can't milk him out forever, or else time is gonna catch him soon, and especially with his style, like, it's not gonna last forever. So does the UFC want to catch lightning in a bottle while it's happening now? That's a good question. Also, on the other side of it, we got to see the other gatekeeper to the title, Mr. Whitaker. You guys perfectly said it with the whole Dricus situation there. And count me as a hater. I hate the idea of Khamzat fighting one person, being Mr. Cannonier, and then you're just straight into the. I don't like that, and I know that's probably very realistic probability in today's UFC, but it's just not what I like. It's not what I like. But when you look at this dang list here, like you said, what is Mr. Cannonier supposed to do? like rematches or beat people he's already beaten. He's in a weird spot, and he can't wait. That's the other weird part. He doesn't have the luxury of time. It's not on his side. So if he does have to go the ridiculous route through Hamzat, I'm for it. And Marvin, I don't know what you do with him, dude. He's like just forever number 3. And I know he'll lose his ranking to Cannonier, but being the third best is a really shitty place to be, and that's pretty much what he is nowadays.
Yeah.
Does Sean Strickland have a fight coming up? Is he?
I believe so. He's fighting that Abus. Remember one of those matchups that people are screaming, yelling about why they doing
why is that happening? Wouldn't it be nice if he just if Strickland just waited and then we could have Vettori and Strickland? But I get it. You need new blood. They need new blood. And for Rob, that we have that example, unfortunately, with Pereira, right? He fought one guy, I think, in the top 10, which was Strickland. Very favorable matchup, like a great stylistic for him. And then there you go. They need storylines, man. They need to get somebody in there that hasn't already fought Izzy. There's no reason why Dricus coming off that fight with Brunson is like, all right, let's just push him forward now. Give him Whitaker. So we'll see.
And
Izzy's been doing a good job selling these fights. You would think that Izzy wouldn't be interested in fighting Whitaker a third time, but now we start seeing that Izzy's promising that he'll submit Whitaker, that he doesn't even want to strike with him. If Robert Whitaker wins, Izzy said, I guarantee you I'm going to submit him. So no matter what, Izzy does a good job at selling whatever fight is potentially coming his way.
Yeah. M is saying if Hamzat can beat, especially if he stops Cannonier, he earns that shot. I think that's gonna be the scenario, right? If Cannonier, he's in a tough position, right? He's in down the line, and the only opponent for him would be Hamzat, and to beat him to catapult himself into the title spot. Because if Hamzat wins, they're gonna definitely put him in the title spot, right? They got to do something with Hamzat, right? It's just they're delaying him further and further and further. We'll see what happens, but there's interesting revelations, right? That can happen in the second half of this year, and we're gonna see a lot of movement, I think, in the middleweight division, especially with Hamzat jumping in there. Now, the co-main event got Arman Tsarukyan come in and fight somebody that everybody thought didn't belong in there with Arman, but Arman said it himself. Everybody's turning down fights with him. He can't get a fight when he wants to fight, and this guy is a guy that wants to fight all the time, right? He wants to be in training camp. He wants to fight the best guys in the world, and this is a guy that you want on the roster, man. Like he's a killer. He's a killer, and he's very good everywhere. And he went in there, and he took a huge risk, and it almost ended in the second round. Hey, let's talk about that, man. That second round when Silva clobbered him, and you could see in his eyes, dude, it's if Silva hit him with 2 more clean shots, that fight would have been over. Sicko, that was a crazy sequence, right?
He was shaky. He had the baby deer legs going. He was about to get out of there. That would have been one of the bigger upsets, right? What was he, a minus 1,300 or minus 1,200 favorite coming in or something like that? That would have been a massive upset. And yeah, like you said, credit to him. A lot of guys in that situation will just say, all right, I'll wait. But his age, you see that in the younger fighters, they're just hungry. They want to get at it. They want to try to get back to the title run. But unfortunately, he's in a division that's dominated by veterans. That division, everybody at the top is well into their 30s, and they're all fighting each other. So he's sitting here going, all right, what's up? Where the young guys at? Let me fight them. And they're not taking that fight. So he's got to take somebody that comes in on short notice that everyone knows he's going to beat. And it's a huge risk. And I credit him. A lot of people are going to give him a hard time with the fact that he almost got finished and he got rocked by somebody that he had no business losing to. But it still takes something to dig down deep and make sure you get back to what you know and immediately shoot for a single leg and get the takedown. And at the end of the day, when you get clipped like that and you can still win, it shows that you still have the heart to be there. And like you said, he's so skilled, man.
He came back from that and finished the fight in the third round, which was wild to watch. He was clearly rocked, clearly hurt, and his wrestling, his cardio, right, his stamina really plays into effect in that, and it didn't derail him. He went into the third round and got the got the stoppage. J-Spec, what do you see in Arman, man? Do you think that he's going to become the champion? Do you think that if he fights Islam right now, he beats him?
Oh, you gave me a two-parted tough question. First part, could he be world champion in due time? Yes. Does he beat Islam right now? I don't know. I'll go with no. More definitely. Right. If that was his very next fight, I'm not taking him on that. But what I am taking is a young man, what is he, 26 or so?
26.
Who learned on the fly in the heat of battle how to adjust his game plan. He came out what we thought he was going to do in the first round, out grapple him, out wrestle him, do his thing. Then he was like, hey, everybody, look, I can strike. Watch me do this. It was going good for a little bit. Then it suddenly wasn't. And in the third round, maybe his coaches gave him direction. He figured it out on his own. I was like, nah. I'm going to close the show. I'm going to go back to what I do. And then I'm going to eventually, get the GMP win. So I see a young man who is a victim of absolutely nothing. I think all the stars are lining up. I think he's fighting veterans just like he did in Mr. Silva. That's going to give him good challenges, give him something to think about, give him something to work on his progress up towards hopefully a title shot in the near future. I mean, if he performs this way for another year or two, the amount of knowledge, experience, and skills could only get sharper, better, stronger. And then he's a problem for anybody who's holding that belt. And those guys above him, those veterans like Sicko mentioned, a lot of those guys, they're already like got expiration dates on them. And by the time I think Tsarukyan truly peaks, a lot of those guys will be falling off, and it's going to make a beautiful pathway for him. So staying active, also not for nothing on the business side of it, burning through some fights on those contracts, bro. Get those fatter contracts. Keep moving those dollar bills in your direction. I like all of it. So I saw a young fighter who has a dominant skill set, who got clipped, got into some deep trouble, made the adjustment, came out with a finish win, because a lot of us kind of just thought he was going to just ride him out to the decision. And he said, nah, watch this. So what can you say about Tsarukyan? Young, strong, doing everything you expect from a young fighter and entertaining. So there you go. That's my vote.
Tsarukyan and like Fiziev and a couple others, right? Like Jalen Turner. These guys are the next wave. You know what I mean? I'm not saying generation, but they're just the next wave of lightweights. And you can see the skill gap just getting smaller and smaller between, like, let's say the Poiriers and the Gaethjes and the wave right now of the top 5, right? You can still see the skill gap closening right now. You saw it in the Fiziev Gaethje fight, right? Arguably Fiziev won that fight.
Close fight. Yeah, very close.
Very close.
Arguably
Very close.
he won that fight. You know what I mean? Like, I think the judges scored blood too much. You know, just because he was, beating more, that just doesn't mean that they won the fight. You know what I mean? Like, Gaethje was clearly rocked in that fight a few times, and Fiziev did a great job. But anyways, but if you watch that fight, you could see, the skill gap is getting closer and closer. Eventually, like, Arman's going to get up there and he's going to start beating these other guys. The Beneil Dariush Oliveira fight, those guys are kind of like the same wave as Gaethje and Poirier, right? So we don't really see much in that. But I think Charles versus if he doesn't get a title shot, I think he should fight Arman. Like, I think that is the fight to make if Charles doesn't get the title shot. But I'm thinking he will. Do you see anybody else in the title shot at lightweight?
I mean, I think if Charles doesn't get it, I think it's criminal, honestly. Like, he just dismantled Dariush. Oh, that's a hard sentence to say.
Do you think Chandler slides in because Connor's not going to be ready to fight?
I don't think the UFC is trying to do any great favors for Chandler. I mean, they're giving him as much of a push as they want to, but he hasn't been getting those dubs. I think if Chandler had a few more dubs, maybe they would fit him in there. But I think the fans have been clamoring and very vocal that Islam and Charles is the fight they want. I think people also think, just on a standard of merit, that is the thing to go with. I know those things don't always align, but I think public opinion plus merit plus just the way Charles handled his last fight, just an atomic bomb. performance, just decimating his opponent, was enough. And I also agree with you, Joe John. If that fight doesn't line up for some terrible or awesome reason, then Charles should take out Arman while he's still, and I'm going to use the words lightly, young. Do like Mayweather did to Canelo. Get him before his peak. And then, no arguments, right? Oh, you didn't beat these guys. Charles beat everybody pretty much. So if he gets him just before he peaks, maybe a good idea. Because honestly, I think Dustin Poirier's best fights are done. I also think Gaethje has, when you talk about plateauing fighters, I think he's terrific, but I also think he's plateaued as far as acquiring skill sets. And how long can that chin last? Well, we'll find out the long way. But yeah, man, Charles and Islam for sure. And Tsarukyan, like I said before, his day is coming, and he's going to make it undeniable.
I say Arman beats Charles right now if they fought. I'm just going to put that out there. I feel like Arman has the skill set to beat Charles and to stay away from, the chaos that Charles wants. Because Beneil was like, right away, he's like, all right, you want the chaos? Let's get the chaos going. And he just didn't last, right, in that storm. But I feel like Arman, he learned a lot in this fight, getting rocked by Silva, and whoever he fights next, man, it's going to be a danger for them. Seriously, with Arman, from one Arman to another Arman, right? We never expected that to ever happen, but two totally different countries. CLD, man, Christian Leroy Duncan comes in undefeated. He's the John Jones of the UK, right? And the boy can move. Like, he's athletic as hell, like fast for his size. He looked huge for the division. But just didn't, I don't even know how to explain it. Arman just outclassed him, right? Like, Arman just went in there, outstruck him, stuck to a really good game plan, and stayed away from danger. Were you on the hype train, Sicko, with CLD? Because a lot of people seem like they were.
I mean, yeah, when you look at his record, when you look at the resume, reading through them, if you've seen any of them, or if you even just go on and read through them, it's spinning back fist, it's spinning heel kicks, it's flying knees, it's everything that you want, all the flashiness. And I think that just played into his mind too much. I think he wanted to come in here and not necessarily win. I think he wanted to come in here and show out and just have a highlight factory. And it doesn't really work at this level. Like, you have to set these things up. You have to start with the basics and find your openings. I mean, one of the first shots he threw was like a spinning back fist. The second shot he threw was like a spinning heel kick. I'm like, whoa, relax. Like, let's settle down. Let's find the rhythm. Let's find the openings. And yeah, just too much too soon. I think he just let the bright lights kind of affect him. I think in his mind it was, I'm about to be on ESPN, baby. I'm about to have my stuff running over and over all night. And it just, unfortunately, he bit himself there. But an easy one to go back for if you're the corner, if you're his team, if you're his coach. That's an easy tape to pull and say, this can't happen again. Like, we can't come out and be that. I mean, running backwards at somebody, like with your back turned, like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? He went from being MVP to being Yoel Romero real quick.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. It was odd because Arman, he's a striker, right? But he trains in Dagestan, I believe. And man, for someone that's a striker, that you don't really see him wrestle too much, he took down CLD pretty easily, right? Like, there was not much of a defensive effort from Leroy Duncan. Yeah, this tape is gonna be something that he's gonna have to watch over and over and over again, like on the mental side, on output. Like you said, he was going for those one-hitter quitters. Like, he thought he was gonna, make Arman a highlight reel, and Arman knew, Arman's a veteran, man, and he showed like what you need to do in this game and how good you need to be. And hype can only carry you so much so far. Anything to say about that fight, J-Spec?
Yeah, I gotta wipe the egg off my face, because before this I was all hesitant on CLD. Before this fight I was like, I want to see what's up. I want to see what's up. Give me some time. I'm waiting for the hype train. During the spaces, I'm like, you know what? I'm buying my ticket. I'm jumping on the hype train, and I'm riding it until he loses. It was a very short ride, and I'm jumping off now. So call me a traitor if you will. I jumped on, now I'm jumping off. the dude did so much stuff out there that was just asinine. I'm sorry. I'm just saying it. You don't turn your back and scoot around like you're trying to box somebody out in basketball. He spent 7 seconds in one sequence with his back torn. 7 seconds. 7 seconds, dude. That's an eternity. Like, you don't do that kind of stuff. And you guys all nailed it. I just want to add that all that flashy stuff, all those LB or RB plus strike attacks, if you play the UFC video game, you know what I'm saying? All those attacks, man, they were flamboyant and great to see, but Arman beat him with just the normal stuff. And when you figure out distance and timing, normal stuff beats flashy stuff all the time, every single time. And then add this to the long catalog of fights you can look back and argue about. So yeah. And this, I don't know, I'll go one step further. I'm so tired of like everybody hyping up European strikers. Every time we get somebody with a couple of O's and a couple of first round knockouts, it's watch this guy. Well, I watched this guy, and now I don't want to watch this guy. So that's my opinion.
Man, let's move on to Manuel Torres, man. Manuel Torres. What a sick knockout. Like they were saying on the broadcast, man, Mexico, they have some killers, man, on the come up. And hey, Manuel Torres, I like his swag, man. Like Lucas Mota is very good and a very good striker. He has power as well. And Manuel just, put himself on the list of knockouts of the year. What do you think, Sicko?
Dude, a shotgun to the face. I mean, I haven't seen anybody take a shot like that. I was legit concerned. Rob was in the space. I was legit concerned for him. I was like, oh no, something bad happened. Like, he's not getting up. It's been a while. He's still not getting up. Like, he's hurt pretty badly. I mean, that was perfect elbow, man. Step in. Felt like I was watching Muay Thai on one championship with that step in elbow, man. It was beautiful. And the dude's a finisher. Like, that's not by coincidence. I think the stat line I read off on that night was 5, I believe now. 4 going in, but now 5 straight first round finishes. Like, that's legit. And the bright lights, like we say, for Duncan, right, were the bright lights too big for him? Not for Torres, man. He looked like he visualizes this. I mean, it was such a good read too. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some, did he mean to throw it? Did he kind of walk into it? It was a feint. All right, I got my read. Boom. Destroyed, out. Feel bad for Mota, though. You don't want to be on that side of a highlight reel. But for Torres, I can't wait to see him again. Let me get him and Bahamondes, Ignacio Bahamondes next, dude. That fight would be freaking crazy.
That would be crazy, but Bahamondes is also from Mexico, right?
Yeah. Those are the best fights.
You want the Mexican action, right? Like, come
those
on,
are
man.
The best ones, dude.
You're killing off prospects, right? But I see what you're saying. You know what I mean? You want the best fights, and that would be a crazy fight to have at 155, man. To be honest with you, I would like to see Manuel Torres versus like Jamie Malarkey. I think that would be a good fight. Like Jamie Malarkey, a guy that would come in there. Jamie Malarkey versus Bahamondes would be a good fight, man. Like any Australian versus Mexican, it's a good fight, man. Like those guys always come to scrap. Yeah, Torres, you gotta keep an eye on him, man. Like if you didn't know him before last weekend, now you know him, man, because the boy can scrap. And another crazy finish was this was just a complete beatdown. Is Alessandro Costa and Jimmy Flick, man. Jimmy Flick, love the guy. I think the division is just too young for him, man. Like it's just, like Jimmy Flick has gone through the ringer, and once he's hit this UFC level, right? It's just, I don't know. I feel like they'll give him one more fight, but man, this fight was not, a good outing. Costa looked incredible, and Costa trains in Mexico now with Aldana and that team over there. That was interesting to understand that Costa would be training with them. J-Spec, what do you think of Jimmy Flick and the Costa fight?
I think maybe you're right. Maybe there's the age thing, but I think it's the age we're in not so much his age. The age we're in rewards well-rounded fighters who have a special ability or a special skill set. We are way past the era of specialist only. And Jimmy, we all know what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to grapple you. And he's good at jiu-jitsu and he's good at submissions. And that's what he was going to try to do. He got stonewalled on any efforts in that department. And once that happened, he was basically a dead man walking around that octagon, just eating it until he couldn't eat it no more. And that's just where we're at in today's MMA, in today's UFC. Everybody is super high skill set, and if they know that you're, and I'm not calling Jimmy this, but take it for what it is. If you are a one-trick donkey, they're gonna avoid that trick and they're gonna soak you with all the other skill sets available. And yeah, I just think that era has come and gone, and unfortunately, Jimmy relies on that to win. He's gonna have to fight below the level he's at now, or if there's any entry level, he would have to like basically kind of just commit to being an early level gatekeeper if he's planning to stay in the UFC, because I just don't see, me personally, I just don't see specialists surviving in the UFC much anymore, you know. And that's just the way it is. As unfortunately, fortunately, the fight game has reached new heights where everybody is so good, and neutralizing people is just as effective as bringing your A game and stuffing your A game into somebody's face. Taking away somebody's A game is just as important, and I just think Jimmy's is too easy to take away.
Fight of the night was Cannonier Vettori. You know, it was I don't know, man. Like sometimes you get a fight of the night, it's like, was that for night or was that beatdown of the night? You know what I mean? We saw it in the Mackenzie Dern fight as well. You know what I mean? Like they gave that fight of the night, but that wasn't even. Isn't fight of the night supposed to be the best fight between two fighters, not one fighter dominating the other fighter throughout the whole? Like fight of the night confuses me now. It's like, just get rid of fight of the night. Just give performance of the night, all of them, right? And fight of the night doesn't make any sense, because to be honest with you, the fight of the night was between Kang and Quinones. That fight was crazy, even though it only lasted 2 minutes and 20 something seconds. But yeah, Quinones rocked Kang. If I say it in Korean, Kang. That's how you say it in Korean. But
there you go.
Kang. Kang got rocked, right? Tested that chin, and Quinones, couldn't finish him. So what did he got clipped, man? Got countered. And because I think he was going for the kill at that point, right?
Yeah, he rocked him. He got them wide eyes. Thought, all right, I'm about to get him out of here, and then nope, took a counter, flipped the script like that, man. It should have been fight of the night. But to your point, just get rid of fight of the night. If it's a fight of the night, then that means both guys get performance bonuses.
Exactly.
Like all you need is performance bonuses.
I'm okay with leaving fight of the night. Just leave it for when that magic moment happens for us. Other than that, like you said, performance of the night. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I think just get rid of the fight of the night. Just get performance of the night. And performance of the night could be a 3-round beatdown. You know what I mean? Like 30-26 on the cards. That could be a performance of the night. Why not? You don't have to finish fights to have the best performance of your career, right? Imagine like you had the best performance of your career, but you just didn't finish the guy, and they give the guy that got the knockout in 15 seconds performance of the night, the extra money. To me, it's like it doesn't make sense, man. It's like, who's your buddy? Whose manager is your manager? You know what I mean? Like, who do you have a good relationship with?
Who needs the money?
Who needs the money? You know what I mean? Like, wasn't a fighter saying recently that he has a new baby coming? Oh yeah, Kang was saying that. He said that in his post fight that he has a baby, like baby was just born. You know what I mean? Let me get that bonus. It's like, yo, hook the dude up. Like, how many? The dude's been around forever, and he's still fighting your little what is it, prospects coming up in that bantamweight division. And you know that bantamweight division is a grind fest right there, boy. And Kang has survived throughout the years and beaten the young prospects, and that was like a crazy performance, man. I loved it. That was, the fight of the night, basically. But we could yell and scream about that. But Kang, man, he looked good. You know what I mean? He was coming off a long layoff, but he looked good. And I wonder what's for him, though, man. He's kind of old for the division. You know, he's not in that Ronnie Yaya like situation, but it's weird, man. Some of these fighters in these like positions, it's weird. Like Kang is in a weird position. He's winning fights, beating prospects, but what do you do with him? It's like Jim Miller, right? It's like you just give them fights and then they just fight prospects. If they're comfortable with it, why not, right?
The good thing is that division is always so stacked, and staying so young, he'll always have the next prospect to fight. Like, that's not like the heavyweight division or those higher divisions where it's just like, yo, it's hard to find guys to get in here. At that weight class, there's an endless amount of guys that you can always bring in. And, you know, I don't want to say be a gatekeeper, but he could be a good test for these prospects for as long as he wants until he's ready to hang it up.
Yeah, Kang, he's always been at that, like, at the edge of the top 15, but he just never has gotten the matchups to get into the top 15. Maybe they give them that this year. Who knows? I mean, the matchmaking has always been odd. So maybe he'll return in Singapore. That's a pretty quick turnaround, but who knows? Who knows, man? Let's look at the rest of this card. I heard that there was a couple controversies, right? There's the first one was the premature stoppage. I didn't watch this fight, but man, it's cool to see that they actually went back and rewatched it, right, to make sure that they got the right call. And shout out to, I think Keith Peterson was the referee. He's the one who like sacked up and said, you know, like, maybe I did make a mistake, and respect to that, man. Respect to that. And you know, we wish the judges would be just as the same, right, with their transparency, but they're not. Well, I didn't get to watch it in real time. What do you guys think of the situation?
I was explaining this to our wonderful group who joins us for the fights. I was explaining what the possibilities could happen, because right when the stoppage happened, we had immediate fan reaction, and it was clearly the wrong call, especially when they showed it in replay and then in slow motion, even worse. But two good things that come out of it. One, hey, rest of the states, you paying attention? Nevada has replay. Use it. We have the technology. Use it. All right. Because of this ability to review fight ending sequences and or foul ending sequences, which will be another one of the fights that we should talk about, because there was controversy there too. That helped us get the proper outcome in a crappy situation. Second, big, just like you said, John, big thumbs up to Keith Peterson being a man about his situation, being honest about the moment, because these folks, refs have a hard job, man. They're balancing making sure all the rules are being followed and lightning fast athletic ability being performed and the safety of the fighters all at the same time. And Keith made a iffy call, a wrong call, not even iffy. He made a wrong call and immediately, like you said, sacked up, went to the man. The head of the athletic commission goes, hey, can we review this? Blah, 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 blah. And got the whole thing brought down to, I believe, no contest, right? No contest. So that's exactly what it should be given the circumstances. Now, if you're supporting, Mr. Argueta, he's over there winning the fight, you know, doing all the things he should be doing to get the dub. Unfortunately, he doesn't get the bonus money, or however the win purse thing works out for him. He doesn't get it, I don't think. But at the same time, nobody deserved an L either. So what I'm hoping for, which I don't know if it will, is both men didn't really get damaged up. They run this back as fast as the athletic commission will let them turn around and rematch this fight and let it go. But you could tell that this iffy call affected Keith Peterson for the rest of the night. For the rest of the night, he did his Mario Yamasaki impression, and he was letting the fighters figure that out. He was letting people eat some shots after that one. And I'm not complaining about it. It is what it is, man. You know, you got these fighters' careers in your hands. Any decision you make is gonna affect their life pretty seriously. So good job, Keith Peterson. In a bad situation, double down. And once again, hey, other 49 states, take a note. Get the replay on.
Sicko, what'd you think of that?
Am I the only one that just feels terrible for Dan? Like, I'm glad Keith Peterson owned up to it. That fight was over, man. He wasn't getting out of that. And I know, yes, we can look at Volkanovski and Brian Ortega. Please go watch them. Go watch them side by side. Both mounted guillotines. Volk's legs never stopped bucking. He had a left arm across the waist framing and had his right arm on a hip and just kept bucking and bucking and bucking until he got that little pebble head out of there. That was not what was happening with Ronnie. Ronnie had hands ready to tap. He was ready to go out. I think he thought he might have gone out, pulled his hand. He didn't touch him, right? There was no tap. He didn't come close to touching him, but he was going to go out. He was going to go out or tap. I would bet however much you want me to bet that he was not going to get out of that mounted guillotine. So that's why I feel bad for Dan. Like Rob said, yeah, the appropriate thing would probably be to get them to run it back. But for Dan, he was like, I won every second of that fight. Dan dominated. I mean, Ronnie had nothing for him in terms of grappling. He got on top of him. He got to whatever position he wanted to get to with ease, found his way into a mounted guillotine. I mean, that fight was not competitive at all. So the fact that they have to run it back because Keith Peterson made that mistake, credit to Keith. You owned up to it. That's what everyone should do, right? We love when people can own up to their mistakes. But damn, that cost Dan. It cost him a bonus. It cost him everything. I hope the UFC fixes it. I don't know if they did. But in my opinion, we're just going to treat Ronnie like a no contest, and we'll treat Dan like he won. We'll give Dan his win bonus. If you want to give both of them a win bonus, I don't care. But if you want to give Dan his win bonus, cool, and then make them run it back. Or don't give him his win bonus and just make it as if he won and push him forward to the next guy.
Yeah, it's a stupid situation, especially when you got money involved. And yeah, you should give them all their money, man. But like you said, Ronnie was in a situation where he looked like he was going to tap. And you could say all day, every day that, oh man, my hand was just there. You know, your hand's just not there like that for no reason, right? It's just there's something going on. You know what I mean? You're not fighting anything. You don't have your hand like grip to anything, like you're not pushing off with the hand. You're just like the hand is like frozen in air, like ready to like come down, you know. And Keith, he did grab the arm, and I guess he felt the limp arm, and he stopped the fight. That's what basically happened. And then after they stopped the fight, you know what I mean? Yeah, you feel bad for Dan because Dan was just doing what he needed to do to win that fight and to finish it, man. It sucks to get the win taken away from you, but you know, human error, man, is happening all the time. And let's move on to the most violent finish, which turned into a technical decision. I don't know why, because that dude should have won a bonus for that finish. That finish was violent as all hell, right? Like Carlos Hernandez, he suplexed his ass and then threw down like 16 elbows. That the dude was knocked out, I think, after the first one. He just landed 16 more. That referee was so slow, dude. Like you could kind of see the body go limp after the suplex, right? Like
yeah, he was out.
Wasn't all there, right? I'm pretty sure every dude has gotten the wind knocked out of them somehow, some way, but that's like 10 times worse because you get the wind knocked out of you and you just got slammed on your head, right? So I don't think the dude was coming back. I thought that should have been a finish and not a technical decision. Like that makes no sense to me. And Carlos Hernandez, man, he just got ripped off on his bonus, man. That was a bonus worthy finish. To be honest, Carlos Hernandez should get a bonus and Kang should get a bonus. For those are the guys that should have got bonuses, right? Because Carlos, ahead of that fight, that was a tough fight, right? Those guys were going at it. And the dude just like perfect moment, bang, just elbows like crazy, dude. I was so happy for the dude, but then it turned into a decision. So what you guys think, man, of the Hernandez? That was a surprise. I didn't expect much from these guys.
Yeah, well, up to that point, the space and we all thought that the fight was one apiece, 1 round to each fighter, and we thought going into the third, like this is a good one where they're gonna have to throttle down and somebody's gonna have to declare themselves the winner. And we could see throughout that round, Hernandez was the fighter doing that. He was the one doing a little bit better, and like you said, it was basically like the equivalent of a. I'm going to compare cross sports again. That was the equivalent of a grand slam walk-off home run where like it was going good for him and just complete decimation of Bonder there. And it is unfortunate that that fight got turned around like that. I'm not really sure if they were just really, really humping on the whole heads colliding as the takedown was completed, and they really wanted to call that a head clash, which then goes head fight ending sequence with a head clash, which then puts you into the foul category, which, sorry to keep you long-winded, but then forces you to go into the cards, which is exactly what happened. But man, for the fans, for all of us, we were going berserk. I'm sure you were too. I'm pretty sure everybody on planet Earth who was watching that live went, oh, because there was no other reaction you could have. It was like a combination of vintage classic UFC knockouts all at once. I mean, just killer elbows, killer slam, just capital letters, killer. So killer performance. Sucks. That, like you said, sucks that there was a little bit of a robbery in that department. But at the end of the day, at least the right man won the fight, so he still gets his win purse and all that. So rough stuff when it came to the refs, the judges, the commission. They had their hands really, really full early on in that card, but I guess all's well that ends well if the decision goes to the right man. That's my thoughts.
Hernandez, he's another one, man. Like this card, surprisingly, like a couple of the Mexican fighters, man, coming out, and I think he's is he Mexican? Is Carlos Hernandez Mexican? Right?
Yeah,
He is, right? He's another one, man. Like surprisingly coming out and showing out, like Torres, even Quinones, man. That kid is good too, man. He lost his fight, but man, he showed in the first couple minutes that he could hang.
Mexican
but
by
yeah,
heritage, man. American by taxes.
Exactly, right. Which is the worst situation, right? Like American by taxes. American by taxes is the worst situation. One last fight, the one that opened the event between Modestas Bukauskas and Zach Poaga. I heard that there was some kind of judging controversy, and I didn't watch that fight. I don't have no idea. Sicko, I'll ask you about it. Like, was there a controversy? Did you think Zach Poaga won that fight?
I came into it late. To be honest, I started watching that like mid second roundish, but I happened to jump into the spaces and I asked right away, what's the score, guys? Everyone said 1-1 going into that third. So I'm gonna leave it up to you, Rob. What do you think, man? Because I didn't get the chance to see the first round, so I had no idea, and I only caught like half the second round is when I started watching the event.
Disgusting, blatant robbery. Nah, just kidding. No, I think the right guy won. Modestas won the first round. Zach, which is I think we've seen from him in the past, he kind of warms up and gets better as the fight goes. Second round was definitely Zach. He was the one pushing around. And the third round was once again contested, but I think edge-wise goes to Zach. I don't know why anybody would. I think there was just spots that certain like people watch, and Modestas had like nice spots in the fight. But I think when you watch the totality of what's happening, Zach was winning. He had the more harder shots. Like, and this is a debate that keeps going on until they clarify the language. But you talk about damage. Well, the damage is when one person hits the other, who's backing up? And the answer was when Zach landed the shots, Modestas was backing up more frequently. Also, in the other areas of combat that count, cage control and the clinch work, he was the one manning him around. He was the one pitting him against the cage. Of course, Modestas did great jobs countering and getting himself free, but then again, he's getting backed up again. So it kind of goes back to the thing of a slicker fighter making nice slick reads and stuff. That's cool. But when you watch a fighter who's landing the harder shot and pushing the action, these are things that win in the mind of a lot of judges. So I don't think it was a wrong decision. I think Zach won a well-contested bout. I don't think there's any controversy here.
All right. Well, there you go, man. UFC Vegas 75 next week. We have another stat card. We'll be back next week. I'm thinking like doing next week's show at the same time as this one on Monday night because I have to fly on Sunday. So
Works.
So I won't be able to make it. So
safe travels.
We'll move it. Yeah, we'll move it to Monday night for the next one. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app, go make your picks for every UFC event, and join the community. JSpec's got a growing mass of fans that are making picks and winning prizes, and he's the Waco, Texas of MMA picks. I just watched that. I just watched that.
Hey,
just
don't
watched
get me
that.
killed, bro. Don't get me
Look
killed.
at me, Waco.
I
I'll
just
stay
watched
being.
it.
I'll stay being.
It's
Pearl
a good
Harbor,
doc,
Hawaii
man.
for
It's a
life.
good doc, man. It's a good doc. If if you want to know about Waco, Texas, it's a good doc, man. It's surprisingly, the man is just
Rob is the Charles
devastating
Manson.
manipulator.
I'm not offering anything other than a good time and autographed memorabilia. So
Alright,
if you guys don't,
Hey, that's what Charles Manson offered first too.
yeah, and then, flip the script.
But a
Flip
good
the
time
script.
and some memorabilia.
Yeah. He drove in with the memorabilia. Next thing you know, there's a Netflix doc on him 20 years later
no
about
good
how he
deed goes
started a
unpunished.
cult. How he started a cult inside of a MMA picks app. That's what happened. Anyways,
Hey, legends are born every day.
Exactly. All right, so there's a couple other topics, right? That's hot right now in MMA. Let's get to those. The first one is PFL buying Bellator, right? This is something that we've probably brought up in the past, but right now, there's some some heat in this because of Scott Coker's reaction to a couple questions during the press conference, and he responded by saying that there's something going on, right? We might hear something in the next couple of weeks. Sicko, let's start with you. My question is, if the PFL buys Bellator, how do they run everything? And let's start with that. How would you like to run it? If, let's say, PFL buys Bellator's just running regular shows every month, you know what I mean? They're doing their thing. PFL is a season. How would you run it? Would you get rid of the season? What would you do?
I would keep the season. I like that differentiates the PFL from the UFC. I would just like to see the merger of the rosters, to be honest with you. I like everything the PFL is doing. And Bellator, I mean, not to bring up my own thing, but like I ran a little poll about like which organization is the biggest threat to the UFC. Bellator came in last, where other came above them. So I think part of it was people think that they're probably going to be selling soon. But the other part is just you can't be operating as if you're the UFC with lesser talent. You have to have something that makes you different. And I love the fact that the PFL has that. And I would just like to see the rosters merge and then it just operates the way the PFL does.
Oh, so you're saying like everybody is fighting in the season, like the whole roster is.
Well, it doesn't have to be everyone, right? Because they do have that super fight division, so that gives you your wiggle room to say this is our super fight. You don't have to fight in the season if you're that guy, and it gives you an opportunity to get somebody to fight Francis, which they need more guys that can get an opportunity to fight Francis if they're going to be getting paid that way. But yeah, I would run it the way PFL has it right now with the season.
Imagine if they pulled Fedor out of retirement and had him fight Francis after they bought Bellator, right? Because Bellator probably has rights to.
I mean, for $2 million, you think Fedor come out for $2 million?
Well, why not? You know what I mean? Who knows? You know what I mean? Fedor's about respect too, you know what I mean? And that could be a possibility. And Fedor still has power, right? He still has power. Anyways, so like PFL buying Bellator, if you combine the rosters, and when you look at Bellator clearly has some of the best fighters in the world, man. If you didn't watch last week's show, Pettis versus Pitbull, Pettis, the boy is good. The boy is good, and he has become, man, I think he might be able to even surpass his brother in like how good he is, right? Like he just beat Pitbull. Pitbull's probably pound for pound the greatest Bellator fighter that has ever been on the roster, like, arguably. And I know he cut down to bantamweight, but still, he lasted 5 rounds at bantamweight. You know what I mean? Like Pitbull can fight at bantamweight. It's not a problem for him. The weight cut didn't seem like it had too much of an issue. It's just once you lose so much weight, you lose that power. You lose some of your your speed. You lose a lot of stuff, right? Pettis is fighting at the weight he should be fighting at, right? He was fighting at 125 for a moment, but yeah, Pettis looked credible. To me, I I like what you're saying, Sicko, about like how they could just run the seasons and then have those pay-per-view shows like from time to time, just in case, let's say somebody is out of the season, because right now this season for PFL has been a disaster, right? There's really no one left. It's just unknowns, and sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. Most likely it doesn't because you're unknown, right? But I would like to see them just run separately, even if they're owned by the same person. What they do is they just like have the shows that they have every month, like Bellator does. And if you want to go to the season, you could go to the season, and then you're locked in for the season. But the people that are left on the roster, they could still fight for titles, and the $1 million title will be separate from the world title in the division. And if you win the what you call it, the $1 million tournament, then that automatically gives you a title shot for the division against whoever's the champion, right? And that could be worth whatever it's worth, right? But I think there's a lot of good situations that could happen out of a merger between PFL. I'm excited to see like what they're gonna do, but I think that it can be a real legit threat. You know what I mean, with the talent, because that's the thing that's always missing is the talent. J-Spec, what do you got?
Dude, I'm like can barely contain myself on this topic. One, we had this information about 2 weeks early. Thank you, Chris Brennan, for being our guest in our show. His son, Lucas Brennan, undefeated fighter in Bellator, so he had a little bit of inside edge. He already told us that there was an offer on the table between two media companies and the PFL. Those two media companies fell off. PFL then threw like a big wad of cash or offer of big wad of cash at Bellator, and we would know by Tuesday, Monday through Wednesday, if something was going down. The next following week, boom, TikTok on the clock, it exactly happens. It looks like all of that's working out. Another thing Mr. Brennan said was that if that does happen, they'd probably eliminate almost 75% to 80% of that Bellator roster. But if you do that, and you take all the talent that's in PFL and you take all the upper talent of both leagues and you fuse them together, what do you have? You have a league full of UFC veterans and noted good fighters who've beaten UFC fighters. And now you have a league that genuinely, on paper, is interesting and could rival most UFC cards, especially these fight night cards that a lot of fans are ungrateful for, but that's a whole nother topic. Now, I don't want to change too much. I really want to take the two golden things that both leagues do and bring them together. I think, like Bellator does, where they take the top 10, top 8 makes it into the tournament. The world title gets defended along the way, $1 million prize at the end, right? Keep that structure. Fighter number 9 and number 10, your alternates for this tournament. That is decided through more fights out of the year. I love PFL, but it really sucks that we have to wait like a sports season for it to come back around. You could be having more fights throughout the year. Let those fighters determine who the top 10 are and run these tournaments for the world title and the $1 million prize all at once. And all the good things come together. Sorry, if you don't make the cut or whatever else, fight your way in. And you have a premium season-based league with tournaments where the ranking system is determined by the fighters, and now you got more fights. You don't have, because that's the other thing. Bellator suffers from not putting out enough content. PFL suffers from a long gap between their championship and the next regular season. By binding those rosters together and doing that format, you have something to watch, and that's what I hope for.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how all the stuff behind the scenes is going to happen, because it's two different networks, right? Like, it wouldn't be as smooth. Like, let's say the UFC bought PFL. That's easy. It's all under ESPN. It's all under Disney. It's super easy. With this, it's still Showtime, right, from Bellator. So what are they going to do there?
Well,
like, I believe
once
they're going to buy the contract.
They buy the rights. They buy the rights to get the contracts. It's like when UFC bought out Strikeforce or Pride. They just inherit whatever fighters they have under contract. Viacom loses all rights to show Bellator product or historical fights and anything that comes in the future, because I think the entire Bellator name ends up being the B side of this and gets washed out.
So then does ESPN allow it to rival the UFC?
Absolutely. ESPN doesn't care. ESPN wants content. They need live action to cover their TV spots. And
We
there's
would.
no, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can see a situation where, because like you said, if they don't cut that big of a roster, they can rival, because the one thing that every organization doesn't have is the ability to have as many or even close to as many events as the UFC does. The UFC roster is their bread and butter. They put on events every single week. Whether anybody complains about the fight nights and how nobody knows who these people are at times, I mean, you could have the exact same situation if they have that entire Bellator roster under their wing. You could have fights, maybe not every week the way the UFC does, but you can have a lot of events. I mean, man, you can have a situation where Disney or ESPN just completely monopolizes it.
And that's beautiful. If I'm ESPN or I'm Disney, that's exactly what I want. What I would think would be fair and smart is that Fridays becomes PFL day.
Yeah.
They just own MMA on Fridays. Saturday goes to the King UFC, and the occasional times where there's a gap in the UFC Saturday spot, because there is, then you put the showcase PFL fights on those Saturdays, right? You fill in that spot. And now you have
Fridays, Rob. Fridays is for one championship, man. Get away from my Friday slot, all right?
One championship. You got to show us the money first. I don't worry about you guys later. You're number 3 now. If the Super League does happen.
The thing about the ESPN situation is that the UFC, they're not loyal to anyone, right? We've seen it. You know what I mean? They were on Spike. They were on Fox. Now they're on ESPN. They're going to go with whoever gives them the most money when the contracts
Dana's going to take them to Rumble.
They're going to take them to Rumble. They're going to take them to Amazon. There's a lot of networks out there, right, with a lot of money to throw, especially for live events.
Or imagine Amazon, the UFC app. It's just all on Fight Pass.
Yeah, but the thing is that they only get paid a certain amount for that, right? So
yeah,
UFC Fight Pass is like they're making money off that no matter what, you know what I mean? But they want them big bucks, right? The big bucks is gonna come after this contract that they have with ESPN is over, and they show like the numbers that they got, especially during the COVID times where it was just like crazy numbers for them. They're gonna have a lot of power, dude, when they step into those boardrooms to negotiate deals with TV networks, right? And you never know, man. The UFC could sign with anybody. Like,
also, don't forget how much live time fighting takes up compared to any other sport. What other sports? Maybe 3 hours, maybe. Fighting goes 6 to 8, 9 hours sometimes. That is a huge block of TV time that fights provides these, especially ESPN. I mean, that is super necessary.
We'll see, man. We'll see what happens with these guys. One last topic, man, before we get out of here is it's a short one, man. Conor McGregor, is he going to come back? You know, things have happened in the last week. Some situations that he's in outside of the cage. We're not going to talk about those situations, but is he going to come back, J-Spec? Do you think he's going to fight again?
Fight again ever in his career? Yes. Fight again this calendar year 2023? No. Because I think he's already missed the window, right? I mean, if USADA holds to their balls, which I know they won't, I think the 6 month, I don't know, I'm bad at math, but we're like vastly approaching the point where like he can't even make it in this calendar year if they stick to their rules. So other than pissing off all the fighters and making themselves look like donkeys, USADA's kind of in a spot where Conor can't play this year. Does he fight? I've said it before. I'll say it again. These mega big time fighters are like moths to the flame. And as time goes on, the call of the crowd calls their name and they do come back. He will fight again. But just like everything else in Conor, that is Conor's world, it'll be on Conor's time. That's my take.
The thing is, like, Conor, he doesn't live the lifestyle of he's not like Floyd, man. If you look at Floyd, like,
always
a lot of
gym,
he's always training, like he's always posting like training stuff, right? Like Conor is posting, he's a businessman. He's a walking billboard, basically, right? He's a walking advertisement, and he's taking full advantage of it, and I'm not mad at him about it. And him sticking around the game by like, you know, tweeting and getting into beefs with people, that's fine with me. I have no problem with that, right? I don't, it's just you just have to shut out the news cycle of MMA just to get, you know, some peace in your life. But Conor, man, if he would I like to see him to come back? Yeah, of course, I would like to see him come back and fight Michael Chandler. I think that's the only matchup that we should consider or even think about, right? Because Chandler is like the perfect matchup for him, right? Even if he doesn't get a good camp. And if you watch the documentary, the Conor documentary, right? The guy basically coaches himself. It pretty much says it in the documentary, right? Like he pretty much coaches himself, and he coached himself against who? Habib. He coached himself against like a lot of guys, right? In the documentary, he showed it. If he's coaching himself right now, like that's not the best version of Conor we will get, and we don't even know if he's training all the time. He's in shape. If you look at him, it's not like he's getting fat and nasty, but man, I just don't see him coming back this year. It's June 20th, right? So the window is closed. Like you're not going to be fighting on December 20th. That doesn't make any sense, right? There's no events at that time. Will USADA allow him to get out of that window and fight? I would not be surprised if that actually does happen. Mark Hunt has been on him. You know what I mean? Mark Hunt's talking about how, you know, just give this dude the clearance that you gave Brock Lesnar, you know what I mean? And let him fight. And then you can sue whoever's fighting Conor can sue USADA. But anyways, yeah, this what do you think, Sicko, man? Do you want Conor to come back? Do you think he comes back even in 2024?
Yeah, I do feel like he'll come back, but I don't feel like it's this year, to be honest with you. And I mean, just to see the stuff that Conor's been on lately, like he's enjoying his life, man. He's enjoying himself sometimes way too much. Well, a lot of times way too much. But when you see that kind of lifestyle that he's been living, why would you want to get back in this gym and try to come back and fight on Michael Chandler? Michael Chandler isn't living the life that Conor is, man. Michael Chandler's working every day to try to beat this dude, to try to get that big payday, get that signature win, and knock out Conor the way Poirier did. Like, these dudes are hungry. So for Conor, do I see him coming back? Yeah. He's also not small at all. Like, I don't know what he wants to do at 170, but he's too big to fight at 155, and there's nothing for him at 170. Like, he gets mauled by everybody there. So I don't know what to expect from Conor. He just needs to stay out of trouble until the next year. Will he fight in 2024? Maybe, if he can stay out of trouble. If one of these lawsuits hits, then maybe that's it for Conor. We have to wait and see. But I do feel like he'll come back. Conor's one of those rare guys where even when you see him, like, that motivation, he has that weird ability to look like he's gone, to look like he's unmotivated, and then just flip the switch, and now he's just motivated. And for somebody like you said that coaches himself, that's really rare to see. Conor's a rare guy, man. Whether you like him or dislike him, he's one of one, is Conor McGregor. So would I like to see him come back? Sure, I think everybody would, just from the circus of it all. We need that big name, that $1 million plus pay-per-view buys that Conor McGregor is. But will he this year? I don't think so.
Have you guys? I stopped watching the Ultimate Fighter after the first episode. I haven't watched the other episodes. Are you guys still watching it?
Yeah,
I am.
Okay.
And I'm gladly watching it. I'm having just as much fun this season as I did way back in the day. It's I'm enjoying it a lot. But with that, what you touched on, John, the whole, and I'm going to use a metaphor here, the big fish in little pond. Every fighter we talk to, I know you talk to 10,000 more than I ever have, but all the ones we talk to, that's never a good thing. When you're the big dog in a little house, it's never a good thing. It's not good for your fighting. It's not good for your development. It's just not good for your career. And Conor's been the big fish in a little pond for a long time. And I know he'll come back. Look, every big name fighter through all the history of all the different combat sports, the big names, they leave, especially when they leave it in their relative prime, they all come back. Look, Cejudo came back. Like, and I know it's a different money level between the two gentlemen, but Cejudo's very successful outside of the cage as well. He's a great coach, great all this other stuff. So Conor will fight again. Just when? Definitely, I would put the money on late 2024 if I had to make a prediction.
Dude, I want to see Conor come back just for the safety of society. When Connor's not active and he ain't fighting, who knows what the hell he's doing out there? He needs to be in a training camp just to keep the rest of the world safe.
Yeah, he's with fame and money and being a celebrity, you become a target. And he's become a target, and he's made himself a target as well, by doing all the things that he does, being out there. And yeah, man. And there's always people trying to
He's an easy target.
Squeeze something out of you, right? Squeeze. And it doesn't, I'm not talking about like his situation right now, but it's just in the past as well. You've seen it. He has a falling out with one of his best friends in front of us, right? With Artem Lubov, right? Like they're fighting about proper 12 being Artem's idea. You know what I mean? Like it's a downward spiral that we watch all the time, and hopefully he doesn't get himself in too much trouble, and he can, because watching that documentary, man, you see that, like very loyal to like taking care of his family, right? Like very loyal to taking care of his family.
His team too.
I'm not saying he's loyal to like his wife, but that's a different situation, what I mean, because we've seen what's going on right now, but he's loyal to like his family, right? Like, and he's going to always be there for them, right? And provide whatever he needs to provide for them, which is not something you can say about everybody. If we dug deep into a lot of the fighters' careers and got into their personal lives, you would find out some things that you probably wouldn't want to find out about these people that you thought were like, oh, he's a monster in the cage, but then next he has like 15 kids with 5 different women, right? Like, like that's not a responsible person.
Was that an attack on Evander Holyfield? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's an attack on a lot of athletes, right?
Fits a lot of profiles, yeah.
No, I know. I'm just talking about a guy who made hundreds of millions of dollars and got wiped out via child support. It's very possible. Like
Nick Cannon, what was he have, like 10, 20 kids by 20 different
something
women
like that, maybe. Yeah,
something wild like that. If you could take care of them and stay out of trouble, all good, man, all good. But it's not a good situation for most people. But yeah, he's dedicated to his family, and let's see if he could find that fire again. If he could find that fire again, and allow someone to like coach him, because I think that could be a possible reason.
You just said it yourself. The loyalty. He's never gonna switch camps.
Yeah, he's never gonna switch camps, and those guys are never gonna tell him what he needs to hear.
Right? It would have to take them saying, "Hey, I'm gonna bring in somebody to help us and help you," and they're not gonna do that either.
Have you noticed in that documentary, nobody in his inner circle has ever like told Connor anything, right? Like it
can't bite the hand that feeds you, man. You can't bite the hand that feeds you.
You know what I mean? Like
you see it actively on Tough. He's outside the cage strutting around barking bullshit where the cornermen and the coaches are actually doing the job. While on the other hand, Chandler is actually a head coach in the cage, corner, right? Doing his thing, doing all the stuff. It's like, if that's the way he's treating coaching when you're the head coach, could you imagine what it's like trying to coach him? Like, it's obvious. It's obvious.
I mean, you brought up a great example when it comes to Floyd. Floyd's always had a protege. That's how close Floyd has always been to the art and to the craft. He's always had somebody else he's bringing up, whether it was Broner, whether it's Tank. He always has somebody that, hey, this is the little me. Connor doesn't have that.
No, I mean, I don't live anywhere where Conor McGregor lives, but back in the day, where my old race shop was, it was near where Mayweather would jog. Like he would be running the streets, and there's 2 Mercedes like with him, like a movie. Like Mayweather's about that, like you said, and I don't know what Conor's doing besides riding bicycles like a monster. Maybe he should just go into cycling. He would be the biggest star in cycling has ever had. Go join cycling.
Pull a Jordan.
Go over there. Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, Michael Jordan has the record for most minor league jerseys ever sold in the history of minor league baseball. So go over there and be a star in 2 different divisions since you like to do that.
I have one.
You have one?
Yeah. I have Jordan's minor league from the White Sox, like the minor league one.
I think that's actually a pretty damn good idea, right? Go transition, because you're already famous, right? So whatever you do, they're gonna follow you. Like the media's gonna follow you, sports is gonna follow you. He should just go join like darts, professional darts.
If I was him, I would put all my energy into business, into more and more businesses. just become a freaking mogul and just create as many businesses as you can. Put all that energy, all that fire, all that passion. I mean, Conor is a phenomenal promoter, man. The dude can speak to anyone, anytime. Like, put all that passion into there, create as many businesses as you can, and then start giving back, right? A little philanthropy. People forget about the old man you punched. People don't worry about the mascot anymore. The
DJ,
girls, the DJ. No one
on the
cares if you're giving back. No one
The
cares
person
if
in
you're
the
starting
bathroom.
your own charities.
Yo, that
The valet
playoff game was not a good situation.
He's
for
never
Conor
allowed in that
McGregor.
arena again.
No,
They're like,
no.
what did we do inviting this
He's
dude
just on
over
a
here?
rampage.
The best
everywhere,
part of
right?
that, it was supposed to be about a partnership between him and that NBA team and just the NBA in general.
Title. Yeah,
And then-
they're gonna sponsor Title. He wanted Title to be a sponsor for Miami as well. They were like in negotiations and all that. That's what he was there for, is to promote his like sports spray. And then it just all went downhill from there.
Damn,
Somebody
man.
gave him one too many proper 12 shots, and
I say
wow.
he should just go to bobsledding for the Irish team or something. You know what I mean? Get into the Olympics somehow. You know, go shoot guns or something. You know, like
I would love for him to be
cross-country
just
skiing.
or just be a mentor, man. How great would it be to be him mentor the next
But
up and coming guys from Ireland? You know what I mean?
That's not him though.
I
He
don't
can't
think that
even
that's-
coach his own show.
Yeah. That's
No,
true.
he's just gonna send them to Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh's just gonna be like, "Argh."
I can't
Yeah,
help
I'm not
myself.
doing
I gotta say this line: cocaine's a hell of a drug. That's all
stay flowy.
Yeah, man. Well, anyways, next week we'll be back same time. We'll recap. I think it's UFC on ABC 5. It's the
ABC card.
Yeah, it's ABC card. We'll be back on Monday night, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys go in the descriptions, download the AllStar app. I'll be kicking into gear a little bit more with the interviews. Yeah, man. And I'll be back at home next week, so I'll be back into the home studio. But anyways, make sure you guys follow Sicko Sports on Twitter. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. JSpec, follow him on Twitter as well, and join his competition on the app. Make UFC picks. It's all completely free, and you guys get to kind of join a good, like, solid crew of MMA fans, right? Which is always the best thing. A good environment, not a toxic one. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be back next week, and be safe out there. PFL is happening. There's a lot of stuff moving.